Have you ever noticed that there's a type of man who simply attracts women effortlessly? He's not the most handsome guy, nor the richest guy, nor the guy with the best physique. He seems to be completely out of place, possessing everything but beauty, none of the potential you have. And yet, a lot of women stop, look, want to be near him, seem to feel something different with him. From a young age, you were trained to follow an inverted logic. You were taught that women want security, stability, a nice guy. You were given a romantic gentleman script written in the last century. The problem is that female attraction isn't a resume form. It's a wild dance between contrast, emotion, and tension. And when you understand that, you begin to realize that everything you did for love was exactly what made you invisible. Let's be honest, the world is full of guys who do everything right, who go out of their way to please, who stay up all night listening to complaints, who buy flowers, send affectionate good morning messages. But these attitudes, while noble, aren't sexy. They convey care, but not intensity. They create affection, but not tension. And therein lies the fatal mistake, confusing being liked with being desired. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said that hell is other people. But in seduction, hell is becoming the other she respects, but never chooses. You become the emotional supporting character in her story. She even admires you, even says you'd be a great father, a great partner. But she doesn't feel the spark. And when a woman doesn't feel the spark, she doesn't move, she rationalizes. And rationalization is the funeral of desire. You've already noticed this. You saw her go out with the idiot, with the jerk, with the guy who doesn't have even 10% of your empathy. And that made you furious. How can she choose someone who doesn't take care of her like you would? How can she give herself to someone who ignores her while keeping you in a showcase of empty compliments? The answer isn't in her. It's in your illusion. The illusion of the ideal man is the greatest poison of modern masculinity. It's the belief that if you fulfill all the requirements, you'll be loved automatically. But the truth is that seduction isn't a job with a fixed position. It's a chaotic ritual where emotion reigns supreme. And emotion, as Nietzsche rightly said, is the enemy of logic. The woman you want isn't calculating. She's driven by instincts you ignore when you try to be predictable, docile, and accessible. And here lies the biggest contradiction of the game. The more you try to be what she says she wants, the further you distance yourself from what truly attracts her. This doesn't mean becoming a jerk. It means understanding that the game is played with different pieces. It's the contrast that excites. It's the scarcity that intrigues. It's the doubt that captivates. The problem is that you want to offer comfort before awakening desire. And that, my friend, is like offering a soft bed to someone who hasn't even felt sleepy yet. The beautiful and feminine woman, the one who makes you sweat just by looking at her, doesn't want a predictable man. She wants a man who makes her feel. And feeling begins with the unknown. That's why she's attracted to the guy who doesn't respond immediately, who has a life of his own, who provokes without being aggressive, who disappears for days and returns with a look that doesn't apologize. This guy understood the essence of seduction. Being desired is more powerful than being available. This isn't about playing cheap games, it's about perceived value. And value in any market, including the sexual one, is directly proportional to rarity. Everything that's always readily available loses its luster. Everything that's fully revealed loses its mystery. And without mystery, there's no imagination. Without imagination, there's no fantasy. Without fantasy, there's no desire. Do you want to be the guy she respects? Or the guy she imagines before bed? That's the crossroads. And most choose the path of validation. They want to prove they're good enough, that they're potential partners, that they're real men. But in this pursuit, they lose the masculinity that truly attracts, the kind that commands presence, that has its own opinion, that doesn't bow its head for fear of displeasing. A woman doesn't want to mold you, she wants to test you. She wants to see if you're firm, if you bend or stand tall. Because the true ideal man isn't the one who meets expectations, it's the one who challenges certainties. She might even say she wants a romantic, kind, sensitive guy. And she does. But only after she's felt the emotional impact. Giving flowers without tension is like putting whipped cream on a rock. It doesn't stick. It doesn't adhere. It doesn't stick in her memory. Remember the contrast theory? It's more powerful than any pickup technique. Contrast is what sets you apart in a sea of sameness. It's being sweet and firm, calm and intense, present and scarce. It's being a living paradox, a walking contradiction that keeps her mind active, trying to decipher you. Now listen carefully. The mistake isn't being kind. It's being too kind too soon, without any tension. Kindness without leadership becomes subservience. And a subservience doesn't excite, it just serves as a doormat. A woman doesn't want the perfect man. She wants the real man. And the real man has shadows. He has strength. He has limits. He has a backbone. The real man doesn't explain himself. He takes a stand. He provokes. He exists with such intensity that he doesn't need permission to be desired. Seduction isn't the art of pleasing. It's the art of provoking sensations. And what provokes isn't what obeys, it's what instigates. What plays with rhythms, what creates tension, and only then offers relief. That's why you see so many seemingly average men with stunning women, because they've discovered the secret no one teaches. Desire is born from difference. If you're the same as everyone else, you'll be treated like everyone else. But if you're different, if you provoke, if you lead, if you surprise, you become unforgettable. The feminine woman doesn't seek an equal, she seeks a complement. And for that, you need to abandon the illusion of the perfect guy and embrace the archetype of the man with presence, purpose, and polarity. Attraction is polarization, and you won't polarize by being a mirror of her desires. Yes, this requires courage. It requires saying no. It requires disagreeing without fear. It demands withdrawal when there's no reciprocity. It demands setting boundaries. And that's exactly what will separate you from the crowd of nice guys who live off emotional crumbs. Because at the end of the day, a woman doesn't want a servant. She wants a leader. Someone who inspires confidence but also provokes desire. Someone who brings peace but also knows how to cause war. Someone she admires but who also throws her off balance. This is the new definition of ideal man. One who knows himself so well that he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. One who doesn't ask for attention, he demands it. One who doesn't chase after, because he has such a valuable life that she wants to be a part of it. One who doesn't compromise his essence, because he knows that value isn't begged for, it's recognized. You grew up believing that attraction was a logical equation, that if you were polite, caring, kind, and responsible, you would naturally attract a woman of your caliber. That if you proved your worth with the right actions, you would receive love, respect, and desire in return. This logic, however noble it may seem, is the greatest emotional fraud ever implanted in the modern male mind. And the more you cling to it, the further you move away from what truly creates magnetism. Because the truth that no one told you, and that most men die without understanding, is simple and cruel. Attraction is not rational. It's primitive. That's why she ignores the guy who would give everything for her and chases after someone who barely responds to her messages. That's why she cries for the guy who makes her feel alive, and not for the one who tries to protect her from pain. A woman doesn't feel desire logically, she feels it instinctively. And instinct is non-negotiable. That's the first rule. And this is where most men collapse, because they were taught to become good catches, not irresistible men. They trained in morality, ethics, and righteousness, but completely ignored what drives female desire: emotion, tension, unpredictability, presence, leadership, and contrast. It's not about making her feel safe, it's about making her feel alive. And that, my friend, is a completely different ballgame. The female brain, contrary to what many think, is not just more emotional. It is biologically calibrated to seek deep signals of genetic and behavioral value. This comes from millennia of evolution. Women are selective for survival. They invest more reproductive energy. They get pregnant, give birth, care for, and breastfeed. And therefore their bodies and brains are programmed to filter brutally. A filter that reason cannot control. That's why you've seen stunningly beautiful women with ordinary men, and incredible women with guys who barely seem to have a future. But these guys triggered something that most nice guys will never understand. The instinct to select the best partner, not for now, but for what she unconsciously represents. The clan, the children, emotional and biological survival. When Nietzsche said that man is something that must be overcome, he was referring precisely to this need to transcend basic instincts to become something greater. But with women, the path is the opposite. You need to activate the oldest and most untamed instincts so that she feels, even without understanding, that you are inevitable. That you are that rare type of man who can be both the storm and the safe harbor. This contrast is the seed of attraction. The man she desires, even without understanding, is the one who knows how to balance emotion with leadership, who generates creative discomfort, not boring peace, who challenges but welcomes, who provokes but knows when to offer shelter. That's why men who maintain mystery, who have a life of their own, who are not immediately decipherable, are so attractive. They are dangerously magnetic, and this has nothing to do with money, height, or status. It has to do with presence and the perception of instinctive value. Think of it as a game of emotional volume. The man tries to create connection with gentleness, but the woman tests the connection with tension. She observes your reactions, your posture, your firmness. She needs to feel that you are solid, not available, that you are capable of leading, not just following, that you have a life, a schedule, boundaries, a purpose. The natural scarcity of your time communicates value. Your ability to disagree communicates confidence. Your ability to create curiosity communicates social strength. And all of this combined makes her your fan. Not through logic, but through the rawest instinct that exists, the certainty that, with you, she feels something she cannot control. This is called emotional gravitational pull, and few men understand this concept, because they live trying to convince a woman to like them when the real game is different. You need to become the man she begs to discover. When she feels she doesn't yet have you, that there are layers of you she needs to conquer, that your world is more interesting than her own life, you trigger the deepest responses in the female mind. It's not about seeming the best. It's about being the most intriguing, the most alive, the most real. And that's where the paradox arises. The less you try to win a woman over, the more she feels she needs to win you over. This isn't playing dirty. This is evolutionary psychology. When you position yourself as the prize, you reverse the ancestral script. She, biologically programmed to be chosen, begins to compete for your attention because she perceives that you are scarce, and everything that is scarce is valuable. The problem is that modern man has been emotionally emasculated, conditioned to mold himself to the desires of others in order to be accepted. He was taught to be everything except irresistible. And now he lives in limbo. He is neither hated nor desired. He is tolerated. And that is the most dangerous place to be, because there is no emotion intolerance. Emotion only exists in extremes. Either you challenge her or you bore her. And boredom is the greatest reverse aphrodisiac there is. Aristotle said that we are what we repeatedly do. The problem is that most men repeat behaviors that nullify their sexual energy. They are predictable, insecure, anxious, and they confuse intensity with neediness. They hardly realize that what they consider proving their worth is precisely what makes them seem banal. But what if I told you that there is an emotional architecture behind female attraction, an invisible sequence of stimuli that, when well applied, create a domino effect of desire? That's right. The true mechanism of attraction is a dance between contrast and intensity, between presence and mystery, between energy and silence. And this dance can only be performed by those who have mastered three pillars: identity, energy, and scarcity. Identity is knowing who you are without needing her validation. Energy is your ability to move the environment with your presence. Scarcity is your ability to position yourself as a man in constant motion, never stuck, never stagnant. These three elements together create a gravitational field that attracts effortlessly. It's not stage charisma. It's inner charisma, and that's trainable. That's why ordinary men, but with vision, focus, and presence, live surrounded by incredible women. They learn the art of being desired without begging. They awaken the emotional beast within women without ever abandoning respect. Because here's the other key. Attraction and respect are not enemies, as long as you know which should come first. Many invert this order. They try to conquer through respect, when respect only has value after attraction is consolidated. Respect without tension becomes friendship. Tension without respect becomes chaos. But tension followed by respect becomes fascination. And fascination is the fuel of the beautiful and feminine woman. She doesn't want predictability. She doesn't want the nice guy who smiles too much. She wants the guy who enters the room and changes the atmosphere. That which makes her question her certainties. That which, with a glance, conveys intensity, direction, and a touch of mystery. She wants the man who doesn't need her, but who even so chooses to live her life. That is the true mechanism of attraction. Not logic, but contrast. Not security, but emotion. Not submission, but leadership. Irresistible masculinity isn't about shouting, dominating, or humiliating. It's about your ability to inspire without saying a word, to lead without forcing, to be strong without losing tenderness, to be whole without needing to prove it to anyone. A man who understands this is seen differently. His presence carries weight. His absence is unsettling. His voice isn't just heard, it's felt. But the path to that requires a painful deconstruction. You'll have to kill old versions of yourself, those shaped by fear of rejection, by neediness, by insecurity disguised as gentleness, those who acted seeking approval, not conviction. You'll have to destroy the good guy you were taught to be, not because he's bad, but because he's weak. And weakness, in the instinctive world of seduction, is repulsion. This reconstruction begins with purpose. A man without purpose is a wandering body. It doesn't matter how well he takes care of himself, speaks beautifully, or has a career. If he doesn't know where he's going, no woman will want to follow him. Because women instinctively surrender to a man who knows where he's going, who has clarity, vision, a path. And the craziest thing? You may not have everything yet, but if you have a clear purpose, she sees the potential. And that's enough. Then comes confidence, but not the performative kind, not the kind that disguises itself as arrogance. I'm talking about genuine confidence. The kind that comes from constant action, from silent discipline, from self-mastery. A woman senses when you have inner control. And that, more than any physical trait, is what activates the desire button. Because a woman wants to surrender, but she only does so in front of someone who can contain, guide, and protect without needing to say it all the time. And then comes the contrast. Your ability to be multiple layers at the same time. To be wild and sensitive. To be intense and centered. To be unpredictable and reliable. A man who is only strength is frightening. A man who is only sweetness is boring. But a man who knows how to dance between these extremes? That's unforgettable. It's a concept many ignore, but which lies at the root of all emotional power dynamics. Being whole, but not being obvious. This transformation requires something very rare, a backbone. Don't lower your head for fear of losing her. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't change your essence to please. And at the same time, evolve, refine, improve. Train your communication, your body language, your presence. Not for her, for yourself. Because the irresistible man doesn't try to conquer. He lives so intensely, so aligned with who he is that he conquers without realizing it. Yes, it's a paradox. The less you need a woman, the more desirable you become. But this only happens when your life is so interesting that she wants to be a part of it. When your mission is so strong that she feels privileged to walk beside you. That's pure attraction. That's what transforms a man into a role model. And finally, the cherry on top, detachment. Understand once and for all, the beautiful and feminine woman is not the center of your life. She can be the muse, the inspiration, the affection, but never the reason for your existence, because when you put her on a pedestal, you lower yourself. And a lowered man doesn't inspire. He weighs you down, he tires you, he drains you. Detachment is the art of wanting without needing, of loving without self-annihilation, of being whole even when alone. You can become that man. It doesn't matter where you're starting from, whether you're shy, insecure, inexperienced, whether you've been rejected, betrayed, invisible for years. Transformation is available, but it requires something few have. The courage to abandon the comfortable version of yourself and plunge into the chaos of evolution. Because deep down, you're not here to please women. You're here to become unforgettable. And when you become unforgettable, the beautiful and feminine woman is no longer a distant dream. She becomes a natural consequence of your greatness. Now that you've seen it with your own eyes, heard it with brutal clarity, and felt the depth of the truth firsthand, there's no going back. You can no longer hide behind the comfortable illusion that simply being kind, present, and polite is enough to awaken the real desire of a beautiful, feminine, and free woman. That's a lie. A dangerous lie. A lie that makes you invisible, while another, who understood the real game, enters and occupies the place you could never reach if you continue operating the same way. And no, this isn't unfair. It's just nature exacting the price from those who refuse to evolve. If you've made it this far, you already know that attraction doesn't come from effort. It comes from tension. It feeds on contrast. It develops where there is wild energy, well-channeled instinct, unwavering inner structure, and mastery of one's own presence. Feminine desire doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotion, to controlled danger, to authentic scarcity, to dense mystery, to the inexplicable magnetism of a man who doesn't beg, but who provokes. And all of this can be learned. That's why the next step isn't optional, it's a world changer. You can close this video, ignore the call, and go back to the same routine. Unanswered messages, unfulfilling glances, dates that don't go beyond the first time, relationships where you give everything and receive nothing. Or you can access what we call the Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds. This isn't your average audiobook. It was built like a weapon. A forbidden tool, a dark map that reveals in surgical detail how to activate the true emotional and visceral triggers that make a woman feel something inexplicable and uncontrollable. In less than a minute, you'll discover how to take control of the energy of the interaction, how to generate sexual tension without saying anything explicit, how to convey authority without arrogance, how to create a personality contrast that stirs her primal instincts, even if she tries to resist rationally. You'll learn to read her hidden signals, and more than that, you'll learn to emit the right signals that make you the only man in the room she truly notices, desires, and chooses. And yes, you'll understand why everything you've learned so far about conquering women was keeping you weak, predictable, disposable. The Forbidden Manual is brutal, direct, unfiltered. It's for men who want access to the forbidden territory of the female mind. It's for those who are ready to abandon the social script and learn the forgotten art of raw, instinctive, and irresistible attraction. If you feel this calling is yours, click the link in the description. Secure your access to the Forbidden Manual and join the select group of men who will never be ignored again. Because the world doesn't need more polite men. It needs unforgettable men. And you only need 60 seconds if you know what you're doing. The Forbidden Manual will show you how.